come to know that when I'm writing a book, I'm just eating, talking, sleeping that book. In fact, they also get fed up. But yes, all my work, I think it's more to do with rigor. It's more to do with discipline than any, change of environment. Change of environment does help. Sometimes you're traveling, you're out, suddenly your mind opens up. It does help, definitely. I'm not ignoring that fact. Rest falls in place. I think humility, sense of humor, discipline, all these, but basically a good, lively man. I think that's my biggest takeaway. You see a side of you, of yourself, which you like and you don't like.
Sir, thank you so much for being on the podcast. And I'm very, very excited because your book is being made into a movie. The book you wrote about Sardar Fauja Singh ji. So what are your thoughts about that?
So, I'm elated because obviously for a writer, if your work finds another medium of expression, it's always fascinating because you've been doing the right thing. My thoughts? I think I'm looking forward to the movie. I'm looking forward to Fauja Singh's biography being adapted into a biopic. I wrote the book in 2011. Actually, it was released in 2011. I wrote it in 2010.
Okay.
And most of my stories set in London where he lives.
Right. So I want to ask you about, so when a book is being made into a movie, for example, Harry Potter, a lot of people who have read the books, they know that the books and the movie, there's a huge difference. I think same goes for Sherlock Holmes, and same goes for if you talk about Indian movies, there are two states as well. So I want to ask, do you have that fear that what if the movie is not as good as book, especially because there's another book written by you, Maharaja in Denims, that's being made into a movie. So because it's a fiction, you have visualized characters, you have visualized, places and everything. Do you have that fear? What if the movie is not as good as the book?
Well, in life you can't work on what ifs. You have to take the plunge. So I have no fear. In fact, two of my works are being adapted into movies. One is Maharaja in Denims, which is a historical fiction, and the second one is the biography of Fauja Singh. So I have no fear because I think Maharaja in Denims being picked up by a very, very well-known producer, Guneet Monga. She's produced Lunchbox, Gangs of Wasseypur too. So I think she'll do a better job of it, actually. So I'm actually elated over it.
Right. But what if whatever you have visualized, what if it does not match with the movie?
Well, bad luck then, but but you can't, I don't have this approach in life. I just take the plunge and we'll see where it goes.
Right. I want to talk about your creative process. Whenever you're writing the book, how do you visualize? Does it just come to you, or do you put conscious effort in talking, thinking about the characters, developing the character, and the making? Because when I'm reading a book, I visualize, okay, this person, he's in Chandigarh, then he's going to London, then he's going to England, and all of these things. I'm visualizing all of these things in mind. So do you does it just come to you, or do you put conscious effort in that?
So it's a very, each book has a different process. But, if you meet my friends, my very close friends, you'll come to know that when I'm writing a book, I'm just eating, talking, sleeping that book. In fact, they also get fed up. So I pick up points from everywhere. I pick up traits from people. But I don't plan a book. I don't sit down and create a character. I just keep writing. Whatever comes. Every day is different. In fact, if you've written a book over 3 or 4 years or 2 or 3 years, when it's being edited, you come to know that you've written it in different moods, in different times, in different circumstances. Even something like, if you're writing a historical fiction, a political, for example, a movement of that time or a personal circumstance at that time can influence the book, which might not be 15 days before.
Yeah.
So then once you edit it, you kind of bring it on an equal keel, So yeah, but I don't really think about how to, create anything. In the sense that I just go with the flow.
Okay, but where does the creativity come from? Like, where? So you have, I believe, because I've seen your house. I know I've read your books, so I know you have a lot of creative juices inside you. So where does that creativity come from? Like, do you have any booster? Okay, if I go to this place, if I go, let's say in mountains and write a book, then I will have a better mental space to write a book.
Well, to tell you frankly, most of my work is either written in my village room,
Okay.
where I have a desk next to my bed,
Mm-hmm.
uh, or in Barista in
Okay.
Sector 11. Now they've shifted from here to Sector 10.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, all my work, I think it's more to do with rigor. It's more to do with discipline than any change of environment. Change of environment does help sometimes. You're traveling, you're out, suddenly your mind opens up. It does help, definitely. I'm not ignoring that fact. But the process largely is about discipline and rigor.
So have you ever faced what we call a writer's block, where you?
Oh well, all the time, but in the sense we've defeated that many times. It comes back, but if you are disciplined, I think all these writer blocks just fade away.
So what's your thought process during the blog? Like, how do you feel anxious, or what do you feel, and how do you cope up with that?
How do I cope up? I mean, I just wait for another day. I don't fight that day, but
You sleep it off.
yeah. But I'll tell you, my process is very simple. That when I'm writing a book seriously, I return to my work every day, even if
Okay.
I don't write more than 10 words, but I must return to my work. So that's the discipline. Over a period of time, the book adds up. So if you leave your book for 5 months and then return, it doesn't work for me like
Yeah.
that.
Do you think that you leave a piece of Khushwant Singh in every book?
Well,
A piece of
yes,
you?
yes. So a lot of people ask me that are your works autobiographical? In the sense, you know, fiction can be,
Yeah.
you know,
Obviously not the
it's
biography.
obviously not the non-fiction or
Yeah,
the
obviously,
biography,
obviously.
but my connect to the subject, maybe that's, in fact, in biographies, I take a lot of those people.
Okay.
You know,
Like their influence comes into you.
I don't know, but I mean, I can't, just say, but intangibles, yes. Like for Fauja Singh, I have this habit of walking every evening. I walk 6 kilometers every evening. And I somehow think that I'm so regular because at some point I've written about a man who has this energy level, who's
Mhm.
into running and walking, and I tell myself, even if a 100-year-old man is doing,
Yeah.
why can't I do it every day?
What were your top learnings from Sardar Fauja Singh ji? Like, I'm sure you must have had a lot of like personal coaching sessions while you were
I think
with
just
them.
a good man. I think that's in any. Let me tell you, in anything, the biggest learning if the biggest learning of life is that if you come out as a good person, rest falls in place. I think humility, sense of humor, discipline, all these, but basically a good, lively man. I think that's my biggest takeaway.
What's your definition of a good man?
Just a simple man who looks at life, who doesn't react to life, who responds to life, who looks at life in a larger than, not in a petty manner,
Yeah.
who looks at relationships in a larger way. I mean, chindi chor nahi hai, That's my
Yeah,
definition
yeah,
of a good
yeah.
man. कि वो chindi chor nahi hai.
सर व्हाट्स योर रूटीन लाइक हुने मतलब सुबह उठ के एਵੇਂ मतलब ਕੀ ਰੂਟੀਨ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕ੍ਰੀਏਟੀਵਿਟੀ ਵੀ ਰਹੇ ਬਟ ਦੈਨ ਯੂ ਆਲਸੋ ਹੈਵ ਅ ਜੌਬ ਸੋ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਪ੍ਰੋਸੈਸ ਕੀ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਪੂਰਾ ਦਿਨ ਐਂਡ ਦਿਮਾਗ 'ਚ ਕੀ
Well,
ਰਹਿੰਦਾ
right now, I'm working on I'm on a constitutional post, so मेरी रूटीन पिछले 2.5 साल तो डिफरेंट है, बट अदरवाइज मेरी राइटिंग रूटीन, सवेरे मैं उठना, आई टेक अ शावर एंड आई वॉक टू द कॉफ़ी शॉप। मैं दफ्तर अजे भी पैदल जाना, बिकॉज मेरी इन्नी रूटीन बनी हुई सी कॉफ़ी शॉप पैदल जान दी। सो माई सवेर दी रूटीन इज़ कि मैं जिथे जाना है, आई ट्राई टू वॉक
ਓਕੇ
within my range, within the radius of what 4-5 kilometers I walk. ਤੇ ਸਵੇਰੇ ਮੈਂ ਲੈਪਟਾਪ ਆਪਣਾ ਮੋਢੇ ਤੇ ਰੱਖ ਕੇ then I go to a coffee shop, spend 2-3 hours, sip a coffee and write and come back ready for lunch, and then I do my other work. My farm I'm a farmer by profession also. मेरी सारी जिंदगी फार्म ते निकली है। ਤੇ ਫਿਰ ਮੈਂ ਫਾਰਮ ਤੇ ਚਲ ਜਾਂਦਾ.
So what does anyone learn while working in a farm that a person probably living in a metropolitan city cannot?
Well, the first thing you learn is ਕਿ ਦੁੱਧ ਗਾਵਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਹੈ, ਮਦਰ ਡੈਰੀ ਤੋਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਉਂਦਾ.
True.
So that is the, one thing you learn.
Yes.
I think you learn, but jokes apart, you learn earthiness. To see, you see your country in a different way. I think it's a humbling, much more. It's a much more humbling experience living on a farm than in a metro. Not that ये लाइफ चंगी है कि वो बेटर है, but I think farm वाली लाइफ खुली डुली है.
Right. So I also come from a very small town of Punjab. It's called Malod, and I lived there for 15-16 years of my life. I believe कि the sense of community is so strong there. ਉਹ ਚੰਡੀਗੜ੍ਹ ਆ ਕੇ ਜਾਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਵੱਡੇ ਸ਼ਹਿਰ ਜਾ ਕੇ like I did not get that sense of community. Like like people are very close.
ਖੈਰ ਉਹ ਤਾਂ ਹਰ ਸ਼ਹਿਰ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਹੁਣ ਵੱਡੇ ਸ਼ਹਿਰਾਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਲੋਕ ਅਪਾਰਟਮੈਂਟਸ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਹੈ, ਸੋ ਉਹ ਕਾਲੋਨੀ ਦੀ ਇੱਕ ਸੈਂਸ ਆਫ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਬਣ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ. ਸੋ ਸੈਂਸ ਆਫ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਛੋਟੀ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ 'ਚ ਹੀ ਬਣ ਸਕਦੀ ਹੈ. ਸੋ ਬਟ ਠੀਕ ਹੈ, ਦੈਟਸ ਫਾਈਨ. ਆਈ ਥਿੰਕ ਛੋਟੇ ਸ਼ਹਿਰਾਂ ਦਾ ਆਪਣਾ ਇੱਕ ਨਜ਼ਾਰਾ ਹੈ. ਵੱਡੇ ਸ਼ਹਿਰਾਂ 'ਚ ਓਪਰਚੁਨਿਟੀ ਹੈ, ਬਟ ਪੋਲੂਸ਼ਨ, ਗੰਦ, ਟ੍ਰੈਫਿਕ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਨਾਲ ਹੈ. ਸੋ ਵਾਟ ਇਜ਼ ਦ ਟ੍ਰੇਡ ਆਫ? ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕੀ ਕਰਨਾ ਹੈ, ਵਾਟ ਇਜ਼ ਦ ਟ੍ਰੇਡ ਆਫ? ਐਂਡ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਹਿਸਾਬ ਨਾਲ ਉਹ ਟ੍ਰੇਡ ਆਫ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋ. ਮੈਂ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਦਿੱਲੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਰਹਿ ਸਕਦਾ, ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਲੈ ਜਾਵੇ ਦਿੱਲੀ ਮੈਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਰਹਿ ਸਕਦਾ. ਆਈ ਐਮ ਹੈਪੀ, ਮੇਰਾ ਵੱਡਾ ਸ਼ਹਿਰ ਬਸ ਚੰਡੀਗੜ੍ਹ ਹੈ.
Right, absolutely sir. And एक और चीज़ मैंने लगता है कि छोटे शहर ना, like you get connected to your roots first, and then second you develop this the sense of giving back to the community. Because for me,
I think a lot of people ਵੱਡੇ ਸ਼ਹਿਰਾਂ 'ਚ ਵੀ ਇਹ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ, ਬਟ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਆਪਣੀਆਂ ਲੜਾਈਆਂ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ 'ਚ ਤੁਸੀਂ 70 ਸਾਲ 75 ਸਾਲ ਜੀਣਾ ਹੈ, ਉਹਦੇ 'ਚ ਦਿਨ ਦੇ 4 ਘੰਟੇ ਟ੍ਰੈਫਿਕ 'ਚ ਹੀ ਹੈ, ਹੌਰਨਾਂ 'ਚ ਹੀ ਹੈ, ਇੱਕ ਦੂਜੇ ਨੂੰ ਗੱਡੀਆਂ 'ਚੋਂ ਹੀ ਦੇਖਣਾ ਹੈ. ਬਟ ਠੀਕ ਹੈ, I guess.
So what are your top values?
What are my top values? I think integrity. My integrity is my top value. I don't compromise on on human relationships, friendship, and I think bold expression. जो मैं कहना चाहना मैं कह देना, किसी ਨੂੰ offend नहीं करना. ये लाइफ का लेसन है कि किसी ਨੂੰ offend नहीं करना, बट जो कहना वो ज़रूर खुल के कहना.
So this is one question that I've asked a lot of people in the podcast, and I want to ask you: do you believe whatever happens for a greater good? Like if someone is going through a struggle, or if someone just faced a failure, I don't say failures, but a very huge learning, do you believe कि it's for a greater good?
I don't know. मैं ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੀ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ 'ਚ ਨਹੀਂ ਫਸਦਾ. I live my life, ਮੈਂ ਰੋਜ਼ ਉੱਠ ਕੇ ਆਪਣਾ ਤਿਆਰ ਹੁੰਦਾ, ਕੰਮ ਕਰਦਾ, ਪਰਪਸ ਆਫ ਲਾਈਫ ਦੇਖਦਾ. ਅੱਗੇ one doesn't know how these things work out. ਮੈਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਦਿਮਾਗ ਤੇ ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੀ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਦਾ ਜ਼ੋਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਾਉਂਦਾ.
So you talked about the purpose of life. What do you believe? Like, what's the purpose of life?
I think the purpose of life is ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਵਕਤ ਮਿਲਿਆ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਅੱਛੇ ਸੁਥਰੇ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ, ਐਵੇਂ ਹੁੱਲੜਬਾਜ਼ੀ 'ਚ ਨਹੀਂ, ਅੱਛੇ ਸੁਥਰੇ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਨਾਲ ਪਰਪਸਫੁਲੀ, ਇਨ ਦਾ ਸੈਂਸ ਕਿ ਹੁਣ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਮੇਰਾ ਸਾਰਾ ਕੰਮ, ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਹੁਣ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਦੇਖੋ ਮੈਂ ਆਪਣੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਬਾਰੇ ਲਿਖਿਆ, ਸੋ ਮੈਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਬਾਰੇ ਲਿਖਿਆ, ਐਂਡ ਹੁਣ ਉਹ ਮੇਰਾ ਕੰਮ ਅੱਗੇ Bollywood cinema ਚ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ. So I think the purpose of life is to engage with your community, with your region, with the world in a manner which is kind of decent. I think ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਡਾ purpose of life ਹੈ decency.
So I want to talk to you about the books that you have written. Throughout the process, do you also learn something about yourself, especially like not the fiction one, but even when you are writing non-fiction? You wrote a book on Captain Amrinder Singh, People's Maharaja. So did you discover something about yourself through the book?
Oh yes, that's a very good question actually. No one has asked me this before. you see a side of you, of yourself, which you like and you don't like. For example, you know, I at times thought that I'm a very argumentative person,
Okay.
in the sense that I get into heated arguments in a drawing room. But Captain Amrinder is such a cool-headed, level-headed man. He doesn't. I mean, there's no, he, excitement in terms of no argument or this thing. Just very, very calm,
Like
discussion,
composed person.
composed person, and that made me feel, man, you are really, this is what it should be.
Yeah.
So you discover elements of yourself which you like and which you don't like, and then you end up learning. Yes, all the time.
While writing a book, do you, and this is because I've asked a lot of people who are various kinds of artists, do you channelize your emotions through your writings?
Absolutely. So I always say this, that I always tell governments that you must back your intellectual wealth, because we have emotions, and we end up expressing them in so many ways.
Yeah.
So someone picks up a paintbrush,
Absolutely.
someone picks up a pen, someone picks up a gun, So that is why we must channelize our internal processes, our expressions in humanities, in creative forms, so that no one ends up on the other side.
So what are the most prominent emotions in your books? And because I want to say that even when someone is writing non-fiction, do you think bias gets into like our personal biases that we may not be even aware of?
They do get them, but I think as a writer, you're not supposed to get your biases.
Yeah.
You are supposed to get your point of view, not your
Okay.
bias. And I think luckily I've been a journalist. I've written for good newspapers, and so I understand that how to cut biases, and that has helped me. But yes, for any writer, your biases should not come in your work. Your point of view should. What you want to say should, but not through the eyes of a bias. That's unfair.
Yeah, but then so there's a thing called unconscious bias. I'm sure you know about that. But then do you like put time to recognize your unconscious biases? Because I think a lot of this comes from the social constructs that we formed when we were like very young. And then we may not be aware of that, but then we have some biases that we may not be very consciously aware of.
We are. So the more we travel, the more we see the world, the more we read, we understand those biases then. This is, ये biases जो हम कहते हैं कि unconscious या वो है, ये तब तक है जब तक हम ये खू के डड्डू हैं.
Yeah.
True. The more we travel, meet people, read, the more these biases reveal themselves, and you kind of take care of them.
Yeah.
And I think as a writer, a bias is not a good thing.
True.
You can have, as I always said, आप अपना एक जरिया रख सकते हो, अपनी बात रख सकते हो, but एंगर नहीं रख सकते, लेकिन आप अपना रोष रख सकते हो.
Okay.
Through an expression का मतलब ही ये है कि how beautifully you express it, so that people can empathize with you, people can share the pain with you. After all, what is writing? अब मैंने पंजाब जो महाराजा एंड डेनिम्स है, historical fiction है, उसमें पंजाब का turbulent time का काफ़ी जिक्र है. And मैं न्यूयॉर्क लिट फेस्टिवल पे था, and I said that the idea of writing a fiction, historical fiction, is that more people can read and understand what Punjab went through. Non-fiction where people don't.
True.
In the sense that it only reaches a particular audience. A novel, a fiction reaches a larger audience. Somebody got up from the audience. He was heading the Jewish Federation in East Connecticut. He says, Khushwant Singh, that I agree with you. The Holocaust came into public domain only once the work went into a fictional form.
Okay.
right? And after that, uski movies bani ye. That is how it became part. Tabhi the whole world recognized what had happened, and our pain was shared. So I think that is how a writer should approach.
So you talked about the Holocaust, and Kal Holocaust Remembrance Day था, and I also read about these things कि like बहुत सारा लिटरेचर तो उन्होंने जला ही दिया, and like you know because they did not want this thing to go out. But and you also talked about sir traveling, and you know खूह वाले डड्डू वाली गल की थी. I also believe because when you travel more, you meet more people, you get more inclusive. That's one thing that I have learned, like the biggest learning that I've had कि travel करने से you get more inclusive. So when I was in Nepal, I was heading a team of 6 people. एक वियतनाम से था, एक इंडोनेशिया से थी, 2 नेपाल से थे, एंड देन 2 इंडिया से, मुंबई से. एंड देन जब छुट्टियां देनी होती है ना, सो वी मेड श्योर कि हर किसी को क्रिसमस की ही छुट्टी नहीं देनी या फिर दिवाली की छुट्टी नहीं देनी, बिकॉज मेरे टीम में 2 लोग थे जो चाइनीज़ न्यू ईयर सेलिब्रेट करते रहे. नेपाल में दिवाली से ज़्यादा दुशहरा सेलिब्रेट करते, इट्स कॉल्ड दशैन इन नेपाल. सो एक ये इंक्लूसिविटी आ गई, एंड देन वी मेड श्योर वी डोंट टॉक इन आवर regional language as much as I respect the language, but I was not in a position to talk in my regional language.
Fair enough.
So this is like my biggest learning, that you get more inclusive when you when you talk to more people, diverse group of people.
ਤੁਸੀਂ ਘਰੋਂ ਨਿਕਲੋਗੇ, the moment you step out, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵਾਪਸ ਕੁਝ ਸਿੱਖ ਕੇ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਹੋ.
Absolutely.
ਜਾਂ ਆਪਣਾ ਗਿਆਨ ਵੰਡ ਕੇ ਆਉਂਦੇ ਹੋ, ਜਾਂ ਕੁਝ, ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਕਿਸੇ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਕੁਝ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਤੋਂ ਨੌਲੇਜ ਮਿਲ ਸਕਦੀ ਹੈ. ਸੋ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਬੰਦਾ ਅੰਦਰ ਹੀ ਬੈਠਾ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਉਹੀ ਕੁੱਟੀ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ.
What's your biggest learning from traveling, or you know the kind of exposure that you have had?
I've met such different diverse people.
I know. That's why I wanted to like ask top learning.
There's so many diverse people, so many different countries I've traveled, and so you know the questions that you ask are very AIESEC questions. You know, it's every
we'll come to that. We'll come to that.
So there is nothing as top, or क्योंकि छोटी जी चीज किसी वेले काम आ सकती है. कोई भी छोटी जी हैबिट which you are is not your top habit, but it can play the most important role in your life, right? So there is nothing as top habit or something. I think the top habit is to recognize that there is a world beyond your own thought. So I think that is one, that's the realization that I have undergone.
So you talked about AIESEC, and this is the like a platform where I have also been a part of. I've been a part of AIESEC in Chandigarh, and then a part of AIESEC in Nepal, and you have been also part of like AIESEC back in 1990s, 1989, 1990, right?
Yeah, 91 or 90.
So like how is that experience? And this is coming from a very selfish perspective, because a lot of viewers, a lot of listeners are from AIESEC for this podcast, and I'm sure they'll get to learn from someone who has been into AIESEC like 30 years ago.
I think AIESEC was a very important chapter in my life. So like you asked this question, do things happen for a larger good? I think AIESEC happened to me for a larger good.
Okay.
So I made new friends. मैं अभी भी न्यू यॉर्क जाता हूँ, LA जाता हूँ. My AIESEC friends pick me up.
Okay.
And I stay with them. I mean, I have options to stay at various places, but I end up staying either with my classmates or with my AIESEC friends.
So I'll tell you something, and I don't know if you know this. नेपाल में ना जब AIESEC खत्म हो रहा था जिनकी term, so you remember once you went to Chennai in 2019 and put a status, any AIESEC friends around? Do you remember that?
Yes.
I screenshotted that. I kept that because वो ना like that was a realization for me that even after 30 years you still have that network around.
Yes,
right?
because I had
and
some
then you
good
also
friends
you
from
also
Chennai.
met people in Chennai and also posted a picture. I do remember that. तो जब जिनका AIESEC खत्म हो रहा था ना, I showed them कि this person, he was in AIESEC 30 years ago and still uses the network, like still utilizes the network, still has friends from AIESEC network, right? So I really enjoyed doing that.
I was at an unknown place, मैं कभी गया नहीं था, and I had friends from Chennai which I haven't been in touch with, but one doesn't know where they are. In fact, I have some very good friends. One, they were not there at that time from AIESEC, Rajiv Macheri and Rinku. Rajiv was the national president also. And so जिस सिटी में मुझे कोई नहीं जानता मैं पहली चीज डालता हूँ यार मेरा आईसेक वाला कोई कहाँ है व्हाई नॉट आई थिंक आई हैव मेड सम वेरी गुड फ्रेंडशिप्स एंड आईसेक ने मुझे बहुत सिखाया आई लर्नड अ लॉट आई थिंक इट for the first time I stepped out of Chandigarh and saw a world outside my own domain, my own farm, my own lifestyle.
Okay.
And yeah, it was fun. It gave me new friends. It gave me not only friends, it gave me learning. I think that's the most important part of it. It gave me a lot of learning. It gave me exposure to so many different kinds of ideas, knowledge, and confidence. Huge.
Right.
It great confidence building measure for me in my life. In fact, I think every youngster should go through this
Right.
AIESEC experience.
I remember in Maharaja and Denims also you. So I think it's
yeah.
mentioned twice.
So it's quite a strong part
झूठ
of
बोल
me.
के जाता है वो.
It's got a
England.
strong part of me, AIESEC.
He tells कि मैं AIESEC internship पे जा रहा हूँ to UK.
Yes.
I remember.
I wish I'd gone on an internship. I don't know whether they have internships for 48-year-olds now.
No, sir, they don't. But I hope they figure out something. But anyway, sir, do you like have an interesting story from your AIESEC times that you want to share?
Do I have an interesting story? Oh, well, AIESEC. What remains in AIESEC remains in AIESEC.
That's true as well. That's true. Sir,
But yes, the train journeys. I think so. पहले I don't know how you do this now. So पहले जब national meetings या regional national या वो what we call NLDS, national.
yeah, they call conferences.
Yeah, conferences. तो बॉम्बे या बैंगलोर या कहीं होनी सो चंडीगढ़ और दिल्ली इकट्ठे जाता था.
Okay.
So and there was no limit to delegates,
Right.
right? So you could have so DI, DU उस टाइम DI, DU and चंडीगढ़ इकट्ठे जाते थे and we used to book a full because हम 100-125 होते थे तो पूरी बोगी बुक करते थे.
Okay.
And this one full bogie used to be with AIESEC and those journeys of 36 hours, obviously the Indian trains वो 48 hours भी ले लेती थी तो were actually great journeys. You saw India, you met people, trains पे लड़ाइयाँ भी होती थी, youngsters की relationships भी बनती थी, वहीं पे टूट भी जाती थी, you know, or on the way
Yeah,
back
yeah.
it was over. So yeah, so I think I have great train stories.
Right. So do you also right now do you I know you're very young in mind and body as well, but like do you also talk to 20-25 years old like myself, but then do you also like interact with them just to know what's going on? And I know you have a
Yes, why
son as
not?
well.
I mean, I don't have this. I mean, you don't have to put it politically right that I'm young. And this, I think I communicate with all people from all ages. I mean, if I can communicate, if Fauja Singh is my friend, even he's 109.
Yeah.
So I'm friends with a 20-year-old also. I'm absolutely fine. I can have coffee with Fauja Singh. I can have coffee with a 22-year-old also.
Right.
How does it matter?
And what do you learn from them as well?
Oh,
like
yes,
do you
absolutely.
go with this mindset?
I always say I admire the young energy. In fact, I keep telling everyone that sometimes it's good to hang out with youngsters to just just for the feel of the sheer energy they exude.
So right now, what's your approach towards life? Like what kind of energy and what's your approach in navigating through life?
Well, there are no approaches. I don't have any set rule. My larger rule is कि अपना काम करो and be उसको तरीके से करो, decently करो. I enjoy cooking. I cook in the evening. Every evening I cook if I'm not out. In fact, it's very interesting. मुझे शाम को कोई बुला लेता है तो sitting in a drawing room I get bored. मैं marinate करके chicken ले जाता हूँ. I volunteer कि I'll cook so I can spend my time in the kitchen.
I remember you cooked Kashmiri chicken. I think that's a slow cooked chicken, right? I do remember.
I do that.
Yeah,
Aabe
I
gosh.
saw. Oh,
It's-
yes.
aab means
I think
water.
it takes around 3-4 hours to
4
just
hours,
cook. Oh, yes,
yeah,
yes, I
yeah.
remember.
So कोई ना कोई recipe, दो largely मेरी recipes मेरी अपनी है. मेरे घर में कोई नहीं खाता जो what I cook.
Okay.
I end up eating it myself.
But why is that?
No, because I keep experimenting. They say कि शाम को अपना काम करता रहता है. That's okay.
Right. So I want to ask about the non-fictions that you have written. What's that one fact, or like what are things that you want everyone to know about Sardar Fauja Singh ji and Captain Amrinder Singh ji, but people are not very aware about that?
I think Fauja Singh, if I talk about Fauja Singh, the sheer determination of the man and his sense of humor, he has a cracking sense of humor. I mean, he comes here, वो रात को मेरे पास कभी कभी चंडीगढ़ रुकते हैं, एंड आई कैन टेल यू वो 20-22 साल वाला एनर्जी नहीं वो ला सकता. दिस होल हाउस में ना स्प्रिंग लगे होते हैं, एंड पीपल कम, फ्रेंड्स कम, दिस dining this drawing room where we are sitting is just full of life and laughter.
Yeah.
So sense of humor Fauja Singh ki is I'll tell you, मैंने एक बारी मैं फौजा सिंह ਨੂੰ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਪੁੱਛਿਆ, ਮੈਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਬਾਬਾ ਤੇਰੇ ਐਨਕਾਂ ਲੱਗ ਗਈਆਂ? So he told me, ਉਹ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਲੱਗੀਆਂ ਤਾਂ ਹੈ, ਬਟ ਮੈਂ ਕਿਹੜਾ ਇੰਨਾ ਕੁ ਮੇਰਾ ਕੰਮ ਚੱਲ ਜਾਂਦਾ, ਮੈਂ ਕਿਹੜਾ ਬਾਰਡਰ ਤੇ ਬਹਿ ਕੇ ਗੋਲੀ ਚਲਾਣੀ ਹੈ. So I thought
ਮੈਂ ਕਿਹੜਾ ਸਨਾਈਪਰ ਆ.
ਸਨਾਈਪਰ, yeah. So मेरा काम चल जाता है. So great sense of humor. And Captain Amrinder Singh, I think a fine specimen of a human being. Calm, composed, well read, and a great friend. I think he doesn't have no in his vocabulary.
Oh.
So a fine specimen of a human being, as I would say.
Because sir, पता है कि especially जो public figures है ना, people judge them. So Captain जी नो आए जो उन्हारे political stands है ओरे करके judge कर दे उनकी, ता जो उनकी personal life है यार,
that's his political life.
लोग नहीं देखते, like people don't understand that there's a life beyond that.
That's fine. In the biography I've mentioned his other life also. Mm-hmm. But that's fine. That's politics, and those are political things. People will respond, and it's a democratic setup, and people will respond and ask from their leader, applaud him for the things which they connect with, and critique for the things which they think are not right, and it helps the leader also to rectify and improve. True. So that's okay.
Sir, Abhi, because now you are at a position. And so when I talk to company CEOs and everyone, मैं उनको एक चीज़ बोलता हूँ कि just because like lot of people वो pedestal पे चढ़ा देते हैं आपको, and because of that you don't get very good feedback, like pure unsugar coated feedback नहीं मिलता है. So I want to ask you, sir, do you have people around you that give you very blunt feedback, and how do you take it, or do you ask specifically for feedback?
So, in the sense that I'm a very open person. मेरे साथ I'm an approachable person.
That's
so right. I get feedback what I need, I think, and I'm not close to feedback. And so कुछ feedback ठीक है, कुछ feedback मुझे लगता है कि इसकी कोई value नहीं है, किसी की लगता है बहुत value है, but different things, because मैंने भी एक तरीके से life देखी है.
Yes.
So but I'm very approachable. So मेरी कोई wall नहीं है. I haven't created I don't think so that I've created any wall. You guys approached me. कोई wall नहीं थी, कोई system नहीं था. Except इतना system था कि हमारी timeline मेरी कहीं clash ना करे किसी के साथ.
Right.
Otherwise, I'm approachable. And
so how does your retirement? I don't know if that's the apt word, but how does it look like?
So there's no retirement. I'm the State Information Commissioner, Punjab. It's a tenure for 5 years. I've completed about over 2.5 years. So I think my tenure gets over in 2023. Let's see what happens.
But like, do you have any plans? Do you want to go back to your village, or how is it?
I love my farm, and that's fine. And I think I'll keep on writing. During the lockdown, I finished a book.
Yeah. So how old are you right now?
I'm 48.
So at 48, do you like consciously learn more things? Like, do you develop a new skill, or do you develop a new hobby and want to learn that, or do you have any plans?
It just happens. I don't think so. Life is making up these efforts के सोच के मैंने ये करना है. ये अपने आप ही अंदर से खो आती है.
Okay.
And then you start.
सर ये जो खो आती है एज इन इट जस्ट कम्स टू यू, सो लाइक बिकॉज आई हैव अ बिट इनटू मेडिटेशन एंड आई हैव सीन कि जब तुम विजुलाइज करते हो ना थिंग्स एंड देन अ लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स कम्स इनटू यू एंड देन यू नो यू चैनलाइज देम. सो डू यू डू दैट, डू यू मेडिटेट और डू यू
Do I look like the one who meditates?
so through your words I think yes, but then you said कि मैं ना चक्करा च पैंदा नहीं ता उसमें I'm guessing you don't. What's the answer?
I'll send you a picture of meditating. No, I don't.
But what's meditation for you?
So, no, my mind is fine. My mind is calm. Um, I involve myself in my work. So I think that's what is meditation. So meditation, मुझे तो लगता है it takes its root from the word medicine.
Okay.
So I don't think so. I require it right now. So when I do, I will.
सर लिखते समय कभी ऐसे यूरेका मूवमेंट होता है एज इन फिक्शन या नॉन फिक्शन दोनों में कि हाँ यार ये तो लाइक
You have eureka moments यार. पहले तो फोन पुराने थे तो लिख नहीं होता था. अब तो मैं नोट्स पे लिख लेता हूँ.
Okay.
If there is something suddenly that comes, eureka moments होते रहते हैं. Yes, they do happen, and sometimes you're looking for that one twist and turn in the book which you're battling, and suddenly you get this idea. I'm conversing with you. Maybe I've picked up something. Oh yes, I can add this in my book.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
they happen.
Did you pick something?
Not yet.
I'll try harder. So but what's the most unexpected place where you had a eureka moment ki wow यार like I never expected कि I would have, for example कि तुम बार में बैठे हो और कुछ random like you know you're sitting in a bar and then you get something about writing, or like most unexpected place you have ever had like a moment like
I
this.
don't remember actually where, I mean, I don't remember actually when this, but they have happened. Now, I've never categorized that this is the greatest eureka moment of this. Again, I said this is this very typical AIESEC. You keep, measuring things.
So, but what's the measure of your life? Do you measure, like, do you have like a benchmark or something ki I want to be better than this? For me, it's I want to be better than myself next day. But do you have like
maybe,
this kind of
maybe I
approach?
thought, maybe I thought, maybe when I was in my 11th, I was much better than this. So I don't know.
In what terms?
No, just generally in my approach to life, in terms of my relationships. Maybe I want to go back to then why.
Okay.
So, I don't think about these things. ये ऐसे सोच के नहीं मेरे लिए ये लाइफ नहीं है. मेरे लिए लाइफ प्रोग्राम नहीं है. मेरे लिए लाइफ प्रोजेक्ट नहीं है. मेरे लिए लाइफ लिविंग है. It's simple. So I don't structure things, I don't measure things, I don't plot things.
Okay.
I don't do all these things. मेरे लिए लाइफ जीनी है. ये कोई मुझे एक जॉब नहीं मिली कि मैंने इतनी मेरी जिंदगी की टेन्योर है तो मैंने इसको ऐसे 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 पूरा करके जाना. नो. जब मैं पूरा कर दूंगा तो आप लिखिए कि ये करके गया. That's my approach to life.
Right. So, so now I want to ask you कि अभी का जो youth है, like do you see what difference do you see the youth of today and like if I take Khushwant Singh 20 years back, do you see any difference? What difference do you see?
Well, there is no difference. I think these are eras. We grew up in a very tough time. Punjab में terrorism was at its peak. हमारा तो childhood ही 5 बजे शाम को विलेज में खेलते होते थे. वो कहते थे चलो जी अंदर अंधेरा हो गया.
Blackout अच्छा.
Not blackout, वैसे ही. So that way, but I think I like the youth of today. They are much better with their relationships. They are much open to to ideas than we were. I think I quite like the energy of the youth. They are more sensitized. They are in all issues of whether issues relating to the country, religion, politics. They are more sensitized towards them. But every generation has its different mechanisms.
So I have a question like that. That's something I think about a lot. And अभी मैं सोच रहा हूँ, so I think I can also pick your brain in this. But it's a bit of personal question as well. So I come from a very privileged background, and then I make sure that I use my privileges to like give back to the society. I don't believe कि we give back. It's just a responsibility towards the community or the society. So first, do you come from a privileged background? And by privilege I mean first obviously the financial privilege, second also privilege where you could, you know, do something out of your passion or do something out of your creativity, and how do you navigate or how do you channelize that privileges?
No, so a lot of people would want to assume I come from a privileged background, but there is nothing as a privileged background. The backgrounds, everything changes overnight in life. Uh, I mean, if you say that I followed my passion, yes, I followed my passion. That did I have to, because I was not worried that, you know, कि मेरा kitchen chalega. Maybe if that's what you called privilege, yes, I had that advantage.
Yeah, like
that
putting food on table, वो नहीं
that
था.
I could take my choice, and I could, but at the same time, when you're young, you're 30. If you give everything to passion and not understand, you know, that you have to make a life also, so it's a tight balance.
Okay.
But to say कि मेरा कोई, so in fact, people say that I come from a privileged background, and that worked against me, because when they attribute this privileged background to you, they don't attribute कि ये writer बन सकता है,
True.
ये क्या करेगा, ये तो जीप पे घूमता है, you know. So in fact, it was the privilege worked against me, especially in the kind of work that I started.
And I think even if you get successful, तो लोग ना वो जो ये नहीं देखते कि क्या struggle करी, they just give it कि हाँ ये तो
That's
privilege
okay.
था.
That's, you know, I mean, everyone is out there for a judgment. That's fine. If you obviously, these are battles you shouldn't bother about. Yes, enjoy life, make friends, be happy, be good to people, and that's it.
So you have a very simple approach towards life, and I think because this थोड़ा corporate उसमें से आ रहा है, but then simplicity is very difficult. Do you think that कि simple होना मुश्किल है थोड़ा?
I mean, it's the easiest thing. I mean, what is a corporate approach to life? I don't understand.
No, I mean कि corporates में होता है कि making processes simple is very difficult. तो like just वो question मैंने वहाँ से उठाया, but then do you think कि navigating through life in a simpler manner is more difficult?
Could be. People complicate it for themselves. I mean, I've seen people just complicate things for themselves for no reason. मतलब उनको इतनी टेंशन है कि वो इंस्टा पे कितने इन्फ्लुएंसर्स हैं, कितने लाइक्स हैं. What sort of a complication is that in life, man?
So that comes from dopamine कि with every like you get dopamine in your body, और फिर उससे ना वो like लत लग जाती है कि हाँ I need more likes, I need good comments, and they also cannot take like, you know, negative criticism towards like अगर कोई, because
But
internet open space
that means you have not developed that shock absorber in life, or that capability on life to live life outside the screen.
True.
You asked me this question about youngsters. I think this is what they need to sort out, that there is life beyond screens.
So, you know, there's a thing called dopamine detox. उसमें क्या होता है कि like throughout the day you detox dopamine, like you don't do anything that gives you joy, as in कि internet नहीं चलाना या अच्छा खाना, like you eat sattvic food. So like it's a very interesting concept, and I aspire to do, like I'm not very into social media space, but then I also feel I need dopamine detox as well.
I'm on social media, and I have, you know, whatever this they call followers, this that. But ठीक है, वो चली जा रहा है, but कोई वो जिंदगी का इतना हिस्सा नहीं है कि you know, it can take away joy from me.
True.
Yeah.
So I have a last question for you, and it's like an advice. What would be your advice to anyone who like is into the writing space, but then has not taken that leap of faith कि 0 to 1 नहीं गया अभी, in terms of, and who like because लिखने के time ना you also get a lot of self-doubt. So how do you like take care of that, and what would be your advice to
I've
any
been through all the
person?
processes, but if you want to be a writer, आप अपना काम करो. I think dig deep into it, research your work well, and dedicate yourself to the project and go for it. And don't bother about these big publishers. ये वो के वहीं से करानी है.
Mhm.
The opportunity to get published is huge. Use that. Don't bend to all these so-called tantas of life.
Okay.
Yeah, just go ahead and achieve your goal.
I know I said last question, but I want to ask, what's the financial aspect of writing a book?
See, it's a when I started out, I didn't even know whether this will be published, and there is no revenue model. अब मुझे कुछ सालों से कुछ revenue model, but it's largely you can't sustain your life through one book. Or I mean, you can be a bestseller, that's fine, but to say so, please understand that writing is not a career for your daily bread.
Okay.
Writing is a career for your passion, for your recognition, for your internal kick.
Mhm.
And I say that every person in this world has an author in themselves. हर बंदा हर कुछ भी कर ले. Even the president of America finally wants to write his autobiography or memoirs.
Okay.
So if it becomes that where you can generate money, great. But go with this approach that ये आप एक passion follow कर रहे हो. This is not going to be your work or your business, which
Right.
will take care of your
bread
and butter.
Mhm.
Right? So differentiate between that. So उसको ऐसे allocate करो time.
What's ahead for you? Like, is there something in pipeline right now?
Well, I finished a novel. Let's see where it
Oh.
goes.
Right, I'm very, very excited for that. And so thank you so much for being on the podcast, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for thinking about me and coming over. A
Thank
pleasure.
you.